Hare Krishna. Sorry, my microphone.
It's going all flippy floppy. So we're in Bloomsbury Square.
Yes.
Some famous last words from Srila Prabhupada as he left Soho Street after he drove there, before the deities were moved there. And as they were driving off, he looked at a sign and it said...
Bloomsbury. But he was shown the building.
Yeah, he was shown the building.
He was shown ISKCON London. This was his last visit to the UK. Before he went back to Vrindavan and left the planet. So this was that visit. And he was shown the building and he said Bloomsbury. Yes, she said Bloomsbury.
Well, he saw a sign at some point. He didn't, as far as I understood, it wasn't when he looked at the building exactly, because the building isn't in Bloomsbury, is it? It's in Soho. So at some point he drove by and he saw a sign and he said Bloomsbury. It's in Mukunda Maharaj's book, Miracle on 26 2nd Avenue.
Which is a very good book if you haven't read it.
Yeah, little plug. Okay, so reading Bhagavatam, we're here in Bloomsbury Square.
Which is just opposite Russell Square, the part that we normally sit in.
And just on the other side of these buildings is Bury Place.
Yes.
The original temple.
Yes.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Canto 3, Chapter 28, Text 42. We're going to finish the chapter today. Yeah. There's only 44 verses.
Wow.
We shall try. Alright. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So you have to... Yeah, anyway.
Go ahead.
Quickly, just building opposite us is a lovely mural of Jesus Christ, and I guess that's his disciples, and there's a lamb or two there as well, and his arms are outstretched. It's really nice to look at it as we're sitting here reading Bhagavatam and he's there in that pose. It's really nice. Alright, text 42. A yogi should see the same soul in all manifestations, for all that exists is a manifestation of different energies of the Supreme. In this way, the devotee should see all living entities without distinction. That is realization of the Supreme Soul. Purport. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, not only does the Supreme Soul enter each and every universe, but he enters even the atoms. The Supreme Soul is present everywhere in the dormant stage, and when one can see the presence of the Supreme Soul everywhere, one is liberated from material designations.
Thoughts?
No.
Lots of birds flying around us and lots of noise. So, I was trying to think of this verse. Vishayavini vartante nirharashadinaha rasavajanmasokesha paramjishvana vartate. No, it's not that verse. It is the verse, goodness gracious, wow, and I can't remember it. But it's a verse that explains that one sees with equal vision.
The sage, the dog eater.
And the Brahmin and the elephant. If you know it, put it in the...
But what's the synopsis of that, would you like to say?
Significance of that is that this verse is saying that we should see all living creatures without distinction. Now, an important thing that Srila Prabhupada points out in the purport there and in other places, as we know, is that what we're seeing without distinction is that the soul is present, and the super soul, that portion of God, is present within every living being. What it doesn't mean is that we don't deal with those individual things with distinction. And what does that mean? It means that basically you don't treat the dog the same as you treat the cow or the elephant or the Brahmin. And you don't treat a Brahmin like a dog, and you don't treat a Brahmin like a cow, or you don't treat a Brahmin like an elephant. So like that, it doesn't mean that we don't recognize the external distinction. What it means is that we deal with all of them as connected parts and parcels of the Supreme. Yeah, and then the manifestation of that is an art that we all have to learn.
Okay.
So, we'll read the next paragraph, which may completely contradict what I just said. The word sarvabhuteshu is to be understood as follows. There are 4 different divisions of species. Living entities which sprout from the earth. Living entities born of fermentation, or germination. Living entities which come from eggs. And living entities which come from the embryo. That's 4. So things that sprout, things that are germinated, things that come from eggs, and things that come from embryos. Which one are you? Okay. We may debate between the last 2. But anyway. These 4 divisions of living entities are expanded in 8,400,000 species of life. A person who is freed from the material designations can see the same quality of spirit present everywhere or in every manifested living entity. Less intelligent men think that plants and grass grow out of the earth automatically, but one who is actually intelligent has realized the self can see that this growth is not automatic. The cause is the soul, and the forms come out in material bodies under different conditions. By fermentation in the laboratory, many germs are born. But this is due to the presence of the soul. The material scientist thinks that eggs are lifeless, but that is not a fact. From Vedic scripture, we can understand that living entities in different forms are generated under different conditions. Birds evolve from eggs, and beasts and human beings are born from the embryo. The perfect vision of the yogi or devotee is that he sees the presence of the living entity everywhere. So, I like this. Prabhupada says scientists think that eggs are dead. But Prabhupada says, no, eggs aren't dead. They're not lifeless. Birds are born from them. So there you go. So that's it's one question we often get asked is how come we don't eat eggs? You know, that's not meat. But eggs are the product, the embryo, as if you will, the embryo of a bird, a chicken, or even a snake. Some reptiles and amphibians are also born from eggs, so not just birds. Anyway.
Okay. Text 43. As fire is exhibited in different forms of wood, so under different conditions of the mode's material nature, the pure spirit soul manifests itself in different bodies. Proper. It is to be understood that the body is designated. Prakriti is an interaction by the 3 modes' material nature, and according to these modes, someone has a small body and someone has a very large body. For example, the fire in a big piece of wood appears very big, and in a stick the fire appears small. Actually, the quality of fire is the same everywhere, but the manifestation of material nature is such that according to the fuel, the fire appears bigger and smaller. Similarly, the soul in the universal body, although of the same quality, is different from the soul in the smaller body. Now, this is what we've read. Feels like it's just been stressed that we are one, but in quality and not quantity. So it just feels like it's just concluding or stressing these points here now. Just to just like in the Bhagavad Gita, even though Prabhupada says it could have been finished much earlier, because Krishna just, okay, let's just emphasize this point again. And in chapter 18, he's just like re-emphasizing everything that he's basically said.
Yeah. I like that. That's really important. I think it also kind of highlighted the point that I was making, that externally things may be different, but what we're looking at is that the quality of the fire is the same, although the size of the fire may be different due to the nature of the external. So like that. The small particles of soul are just like sparks of the larger soul. The greatest soul is the super soul, but the super soul is quantitatively different from the small soul. The super soul is described in the Vedic literature as the supplier of all necessities of the smaller soul. Nityo Nityanam. One who understands this distinction between the super soul and the individual soul is above lamentation and is in a peaceful position. Important point to come back to. When the smaller soul thinks himself quantitatively as big as the large soul, he is under the spell of Maya. For that is not his constitutional position. No one can become the greater soul simply by mental speculation. Okay, so yes, this is important. The one who understands this distinction between the super soul and the individual soul is above lamentation. The Shochati Nakangchati. Brahmabhuta Prasanatma 18, I think it's 65 or 62. Bhagavad Gita explains that one who's on the Brahmabhuta platform, one who's understood the distinction, what is Brahman, which means what is spirit, and who is the supreme Brahman, God, then he has the Shochati Nakangchati. He doesn't hanker, nor does he lament. So there's no lamentation. And in this world, there is a lot of lamentation. I don't know if anyone out there laments from time to time. If you lament, put it in the comments below and say, yes, I lament.
Maybe you're lamenting now while listening.
Yeah, maybe you are.
Just listening to us.
But usually we lament because we hanker for something and then we don't get it. So therefore we lament about the fact we didn't get it. Then we hanker more and it goes back and forth. But also this point, when the smaller soul thinks himself quantitatively as big as the large soul, he is under the spell of Maya. So that's it. So basically when we think that we're as good as God, we're just in Maya. When we think that the qualities of God or the characteristics of God that God is known for, because He's the possessor. Bhagavan means possessor of how many opulences? 6 opulences. And when we think that we're the most famous or the most beautiful, the most intelligent, the wealthiest,
knowledge.
Nope, that was intelligent.
No.
The most renounced, which is always the last one, and the most famous, beautiful, intelligent, wealthy, renounced, and strong.
Strong.
So if we think we're any of those, at the most, that's why when one devotee said to Prabhupada, I'm the most fallen, Prabhupada said, you're not the most anything. Okay.
All right. The smallness or greatness of different souls is described in the Varaha Purana as Swamsa Vibhinamsa. The Swamsa soul is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Vibhinamsa souls, or small particles, are eternally small particles as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. The small living entities are eternally part and parcel, and therefore it is not possible them to be quantitatively as great as the super soul. All right.
Thoughts?
Oh. No, nothing. I just think it confirms what we've already read.
Wonderful. Shall we move on?
Text 44.
Okay, this is the last voice. Thus, the yogi can be in the self-realized position after conquering the insurmountable spell of Maya. So you can be in this high position once you've conquered that which is unconquerable. Who presents herself as both a cause and effect of this material manifestation, and is therefore very difficult to understand. Purport. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the spell of Maya, which covers the knowledge of the living entity, is insurmountable. However, one who surrenders unto Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, can conquer this seemingly insurmountable spell of Maya. Anyone knows that verse? Anyone knows? Okay, if you know the verse that's being referred to here, you can put it in the comments below. Here also it is stated that the devi prakriti, now that's a hint, devi prakriti, or the external energy of the Supreme Lord, is durvibhavya, very difficult to understand and very difficult to conquer. One must, however, conquer this insurmountable spell of Maya, and this is possible, so it's not impossible, by the grace of the Lord, when God reveals himself to the surrendered soul. It is also stated here, Swarupena vitishtate. Swarup means that one has to know that he is not the Supreme Soul, but rather part and parcel of the Supreme Soul. That is self-realization. To think falsely that one is the Supreme Soul and that one is all-pervading is not Swarup. This is not realization of his actual position. The real position is that one is part and parcel. It is recommended here that one remain in that position of actual self-realization. In Bhagavad Gita, this understanding is defined as Brahman realization. Any thoughts? She has become thoughtless today. She doesn't think less. How's that saying go? Don't think. It's not that you think less about yourself, but you think about yourself less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Have you got any thoughts on what you just read?
I do. I always
Please
have thoughts.
Share.
So, Prabhupada is basically directly refuting the Mayavad philosophy, which states that we become one with the Supreme, which means we become the Supreme. So that means basically he's saying all these Mayavadis, those who believe this, you are in Maya. So that is also there. Anyone who thinks that they become one with the Supreme is, or become the Supreme, or you become God, as Prabhupada simply by speculation, that's there. And yeah, and I made some other comments along the way. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Alright. After Brahman realization, one can engage in the activities of Brahman. As long as one is not self-realized, he engages in activities based on false identification with the body. When one is situated in his real self, then the activities of Brahman realization begin. The Mayavadi philosophers say that after Brahman realization, all activities stop, but that is not actually so. If the soul is so active in its abnormal condition, existing under the covering of matter, how can one deny its activity when free? An example may be cited here. If a man in a diseased condition is very active, how can one imagine that when he is free from the disease, he will be inactive? Fair point. Naturally, the conclusion is that when one is free from all disease, his activities are pure. It may be said that the activities of Brahman realization are different from those of conditional life, but that does not stop activity. This is indicated in Bhagavad Gita 18.54. After one realizes oneself to be Brahman, devotional service begins. Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. After Brahman realization, one can engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, devotional service of the Lord is activity in Brahman realization.
Yeah, so that was the verse I was referring to earlier.
What?
Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. I think that's the verse. Brahma Buddha Prasanna Manashochiti Nikankchiti Samasarbeshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. That's the verse. And it's 1854. Not, I said 1864 or 62, but yeah. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I just thought that was a good point that Prabhupada made. Simple point: if someone's not well or diseased but they're active,
Yes.
then when they're cured, why would they not be active?
Nice analogy. Yeah, it seems logical. Why would you think we're living entities engaging in so many activities, but when we become perfected, we don't do anything? Like here, we're going to do nothing for a minute and just see how exciting that is.
No, that's too long.
Okay.
It's true, and also when you engage in devotional service, whatever that may be, because it's so varied and it's such a Bhakti Yoga is such that you can engage any active, you can be active in any way. Then if someone said, just so you know, you won't be doing any of that stuff, you won't be actively serving, it actually makes you think, why do I want to go back? Like if you speak to pujaris or whatever, and like when I speak to the garland makers or this or that, that for them, if they go to the spiritual world and they're assisting in making garlands or this or that for the Lord in the flesh, so to speak, that's quite an amazing goal for them. And if look, just so you know, when you get to the spiritual world, there's no garland making, there's no nothing of that sort. Okay, you're just going to sit still. Then
you're not even going to know you're just going to merge into
then you can't forgive them,
which is certainly
for thinking,
attractive to some people.
You can't forgive them for thinking, why don't I just keep coming back here? I don't want to go back. I just keep coming back to the material world, birthday, old age, disease and death, just so I can actually be happy in my devotional service. Now, isn't that ironic? That's it. He's merged into Brahman.
Finished? Good point. Thank you. Last paragraph. For those who engage in devotional service, there is no spell of Maya. Oh God, I wish that was true. And their situation is all perfect. Wish that was true also. But I guess the defining factor is what is devotional service and being engaged in it. The duty of the living entity as a part and parcel of the whole is to render devotional service to the whole. That is the ultimate perfection of life. Jai. Bhakti ki jai. Devotional service ki jai. Okay. Thus
Very
end the
nice.
Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 28th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Kapila's Instructions on the Execution of Devotional Service. Grantaraj
Wow.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So amazing. So we finished yet another chapter of the Bhagavatam. Slowly but surely we are moving through. Next we'll be starting chapter 29.
Yeah.
Chapter 29. And the title is Explanation of Devotional Service by Lord Kapila Dev. So we'll hear some more about devotional service. Okay, thank you all very, very much for tuning in. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.